A while ago, I was working on the layout, working on streets, and using my squadron green putty here to sand down, to fill in, sand down all the transition points between the various pieces of styrene for these roadways. When I was completed, I went, okay, where's the cap? And if you're familiar with these squadrons, there's a small black plastic cap that goes with these. And I was looked around where I was working on the floor, and couldn't find it at all. These putty tubes are not exactly cheap, and I didn't want to have to go drive an hour to the store or put it on an online order for another one of these. I didn't want to have these things dry up. Then I remembered this tip I had seen earlier on a totally unrelated channel about using potentially wire nuts to use as a cap. So I dug through my wire nut collection, and I found this orange cap here that actually worked well. And I found that it matched the threads very nicely, and screwed right on there. And actually, we actually ended up finding a which actually works better, and it's actually preserved my tube. And some actually other benefit, this cap is actually much larger than the original cap, and it's a little bit easier to put on. I did some other little testing, is that this will fit these wire nuts will fit a lot of tubes, especially if it has a screw threads or other tubes that will accept the threads of the wire nuts. And of course, wire nuts come in all different sizes. For example, so you can potentially find things that these can work on, as a little quick tip. And we can also use wire nuts for typical applications. There's a lot of times that you may be working on your model railroad. You're connecting some wires underneath, and maybe you don't have, you're out of terminal strips or plugs, or maybe you're just testing things and you want to put a temporary connection. So a lot of modelers, you'll see them take two wires, like two bus wire cuts like this, wire them up and connect them up like this, and leave it and then move on. The problem is with a connection like this is that why we think it's a temporary connection. A lot of times we get there's many other projects going on, and we forget about it. And this temporary connection is lasting for 6 months or more, and becomes somewhat permanent. Problem is with unsecured connections like this, over time these wires get snagged and pulled, and they will almost invariably pull apart on you. Or worse, these connections, they can get pulled by other wires, and then this, especially if you have this connection, I can guarantee you, if you're something like this, you probably have more than one of these that these can touch, and then you'll have a short, and you won't figure out where it's going. And it could be intermittent; it could kind of move around you, and sometimes short and not short. And you'd be looking around, well, there's nothing to rail, there's nothing on my rails, you can't figure it out. And just because you have the unsecured connection. If you have your wire nuts around, the best thing to do is use these things are meant for. Twist the wires together, twist on an appropriately sized wire nut. Then this connection is nice. It's actually improved. It's going to be a bit more rigid, and it's protected against any shorts. I know, while I would prefer, soldering this or using a Scotch lock connector, something like this, will work, in a pinch, and not actually leave you figuring out what's the cause of this short or why this thing has stopped working. And of course, later, if you decide, okay, I got my circuit boards or equipment that I got, you can unscrew it, pull it apart. You don't have to worry about desoldering your things or clipping your wires or losing wire. Then you can go on and connect these normally. If you have wire nuts, are a inexpensive product that anybody should have in their supplies. Whether you use it for unconventional applications, such as finding a replacement for a lost cap, or for doing things like electrical connections under your model railroad, both of these kind of techniques can be used that will help you save time and money on your, on your model railroad.